Welcome to the 48th episode of By the Drip. This podcast is all about coffee, entrepreneurship, and the incredible people we meet along the way. I'm your host, David Crosby, founder of Rosso Coffee Roasters. And in today's episode, we're thrilled to be joined by Christine Rollings, the author of My Barista ABCs, a charming children's book that introduces young readers to the world of coffee. Christine shares her journey of writing and self-publishing the book, the challenges she faced, and the excitement of bringing it to life. So if you're looking for a unique and inspiring story, this episode's for you. Let's get to it. Okay, thanks for joining me.
Yeah.
You ready to go?
Inviting me. I'm so ready.
Okay.
Let's do this.
I want to start, I love starting the origins of like where coffee met you in life.
Amazing.
Maybe either your first sip of coffee or when you got into specialty coffee, but let's start there.
All right, sweet. When I was growing up, my dad did not let us drink coffee.
Okay.
Because it was an adult beverage.
Yes.
But if we asked for a sip of his beer, it was fair game.
Really?
So beer was fair game. Coffee was off the table.
Why is beer and what's the difference?
I have no idea. So I didn't start drinking coffee until college because, now I'm an adult and can drink adult beverages.
Right.
And I didn't love it. I mean, it was crap, drinking crappy coffee. And my dad my dad is like the origin story of coffee drinking, right? Like he just was always a coffee drinker. And even now he'll like have a pot of coffee with him at all times. But my dad's the kind of coffee drinker that like, he would love this, but he will also drink like the crappiest Tim Hortons coffee that's been left over in his car for 2 days.
Oh, wow.
Like he just needs the caffeine. Anyway, so he started drinking coffee black and I was like, I think I want to try this. And then I started realizing that coffee like had a taste, right? Because I'm not putting sugar and cream and stuff in it. And along this time, I ended up working at a coffee shop in our hometown. And
where's home for you?
Home for me was Oxford, Connecticut.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So I'm a long way from home right now.
Okay,
yeah. So grew up in little like town that had like 2 traffic lights, kind of small town vibes, where you knew every customer's order, you knew it. But it was not great. It was not great coffee in hindsight, but it was like we had the burlap coffee bags hanging from the wall. And I remember my friend and I in high school were like, what if you could tell the farmer stories? What if you could, like, we just thought this was so innovative. So this was probably like 2003, 2002.
Okay, cool.
So we're like, this is so cool and innovative and no one's doing this. And then I got into specialty eventually and was like, oh, this has been a thing for a while.
And at that time, like, are you doing latte art or is it, this is pre
latte art. This is like,
people are learning
town hadn't even gotten a Starbucks yet.
Okay, so people are figuring out what like a latte is.
Yes. Okay. So I remember somebody came in and ordered a Frappuccino. And I had no idea what a Frappuccino was, except that it was me. I was like, it's a blender. So I remember going to the back being like, I think I can just put some things in a blender and serve this. I have so many regrets. I'm sorry, Oxford, Connecticut. It was so bad. I mean, but then like the owner was kind of like, this is a fun project. Like he wasn't really like into coffee either. So between that and then my dad's love of coffee, I eventually got to drink coffee black post-college, realized what went into it, and then had a roommate at the time that drank coffee black unless it was bad, and then she would add milk. So I would just follow her lead. Like whenever we were at a friend's house or something, I'd be like, is the coffee good? Well, is Carrie putting cream in it? Yes. It's not good. I'm not going to drink it. So I just started learning. So met my husband in 2010. And then he was not a coffee drinker then. So like we'd go to Starbucks and I'm going to out him a little bit. He would be like caramel macchiato, extra whipped cream. And I was trying to be a little pretentious and would order a black coffee at Starbucks. And that was my thing. And then eventually another friend at the time had gotten this bag of light roasted coffee. And we sat at her dining room table. We brewed it, we sipped it, and we were like, this is supposed to be better. Like it was like marketed to us as specialty. And we were like, this is supposed to be better. And we did not like it. We were like,
where were you guys living at this point?
We were living in just outside of Philadelphia.
Okay.
So it was a local roaster in Philly.
Yeah.
And so we were like, we were like trying to train our brains to like, this is better. This is better. So that was my entry into specialty.
Wow.
And then once I just like, it was a slippery slope. It just like pulled us in.
Okay. So when do you move to the Philippines?
Yes.
Right around that time?
I moved to the Philippines. So Trent is my husband.
Yeah.
And Trent had been living in the Philippines from 2010. We met, so we both worked for the same nonprofit organization. We met at a training in the States.
Okay.
And he moved to the Philippines and lived there for 4 years. Halfway into his time in the Philippines, we started dating on Skype.
Okay. Yes.
So we're, doing the whole long distance thing. So then he came back to Canada, then to the US for about 6 months. And then that's when we got married. And then I moved back to the Philippines with him.
Oh, wow.
And then at that time, like around the time we were dating, getting married, we were like, what do we want to do? Like, what do we want to do with our lives? And we were just like, we love coffee. What if we do something with coffee? What if we start a coffee shop? At the time, we thought that a coffee shop could make money.
Okay. Yeah. Welcome to reality.
Major reality check. Oh, you can't get rich off of coffee. So we thought like, being in the Philippines, such a great coffee culture in Manila, especially. And so cafes were always full. There's a market for this. Let's go to the Philippines. Let's try to start a big, cool coffee shop that can be a meeting place, a third space. This was the dream. And then, yeah.
So what year is this?
So that was your initial question. Hey, that would have been, we moved to the Philippines in 2013.
Okay.
Yeah.
And at this time, you guys are specialty coffee drinkers, like
yes.
And then your husband goes on to be his role now, like he's famous in coffee competitions. Like
yes.
He's a head judge. I didn't know all this backstory. So it's quite funny hearing like the origin of
him too, right?
Yes.
Like that's part
we got to get him on the podcast to hear his version.
You totally do. Then we can compare.
Yeah, we can see whose is more true.
Yeah.
Okay, so do you open the coffee shop?
We opened a small brew bar.
Okay.
So what we did was we did this internship with EDSA Beverage Design Studio. Shout out to them.
Okay.
And they taught us everything we know. And for their so they had like a barista training course. And then at the end of the course, you had to do a mock barista comp routine. And so they just we were one of the first kind of classes to go through this, and they gave us just like old beans and just like shoot from the hip, just go and do a routine. Yeah. But you had to do like the 4-4-4 beverages within the 15 minutes. Wow. And there was a judge panel. And so we had to do this. So that actually, once we passed, they called Trent back and said, can you be a judge for this? Oh. As people are going through the program, can you come back and be a judge for their exam at the end of the course?
Okay.
And so from him doing that, he got asked to judge for Philippine national competitions.
Oh, interesting.
And so once he was 1 or 2 competitions in, that's when he found out that in order to take the class and the exam to judge at Worlds, you have to have 2 national competitions underneath your belt. So he was like, I have that. So now he can do Worlds and kind of grow from there. So his judging career really started there at EDSA Beverage Design Studio as well.
Okay, so you got the brew bar. So
we got the brew bar. We're doing brewed coffee inside of a co-working space.
Okay.
And
so it's a lean startup.
Super lean startup. Yeah. Like, how can we do this minimally? We had a friend make us this epic wooden coffee cart, and we were just hand brewing. I think we were grinding with the Comandante too. Like it was real. And we were just it would take so much time to make a brew that you're talking to people, you're getting to know the people in the community, which was so cool.
And both of you are there Monday?
Both of us are there Monday through Friday.
Wow.
And then except when I was off at language school trying to learn Tagalog. So I was also studying Tagalog at the same time that we're doing this startup.
Oh, geez.
So then, half of my barista course was in Tagalog.
Oh, wow.
And so I would take the notes back to my language teacher, tell me what this means. And, I'm learning vocab. So a lot of my Tagalog vocab is really within the coffee industry.
Okay.
we found out, I hope this is okay to say.
You can say whatever you want.
I'm going to say whatever I want and we'll figure it out later. We found out right after we opened the coffee bar that there's a law in the Philippines that foreigners cannot own businesses. So unless you're Starbucks, McDonald's, $1 billion company, you can't own businesses, which, as frustrating as it seemed at the time, is a way to prevent. I mean, the Philippines has been colonized so much, and so the law is in place to prevent against white people coming in and doing things, and so it makes so much sense. And I like, even at the time, we're like, we want to really respect this. If you're caught, it's like 4 years in prison.
Oh my goodness!
So we were like, it was just very serious right away, and so we were like, okay. And around at the same time, a friend of a friend had approached us and said, I'm really interested in working in coffee. Can I buy this from you? Can I buy this business? So that's what happened. So around the same time, those two things happened. And so we sold the business to her.
Jeez. How many days is like from start to finish?
Oh my gosh. I mean, we ran it for about 6 months.
Okay.
And then like kind of onboarded her and then fell underneath the co-working space. Like we just kind of became a part of the co-working space so that it never actually officially was like owned by us. But then, we sold it. So we worked there for just 6 months.
What an exit strategy. That's, it's like a dream come true.
Exactly.
6 months later, you sold the business.
We sold it. It's off. And it ran until COVID.
Oh, wow.
It ran until COVID hit. So it would have been like maybe 4 or 5 years. And then COVID, I mean, COVID was rough everywhere, but especially in the Philippines.
Okay. So you sell the pop-up, the cafe.
Yep.
What do you guys do for the next little bit there? So
for the next little bit, we really were considering where are we going next? Do we go back to the US? So this was this happened around the time Trump was elected for the first time.
Okay.
So to put it in context, what is that? 2016. Which, as an American, I mean, shocked me the first time.
Right.
Like, what?
Yeah.
And again, right, this is full disclosure of all my political, like now I'm like, no, we're getting into politics here.
We've started off.
Oh, right.
Might get more or less views because of what you're going to say next.
I know, exactly. I considered for a little bit like, okay, I don't know if you're familiar with the Enneagram at all. Enneagram is like a personality test type thing.
Okay.
And if you're familiar with the Enneagram at all, I'm a type 2, which means my like natural bent is like, how can I help people? How can I help people? How can I like be in that world? So my thought was, where do we go next? Was where can I help the most people?
Oh, interesting.
Which I also think is a bit of like white savior complex as well mixed into it. And I thought like, well, there's a lot, like the US is a shit show right now. Like maybe I can go work in like refugee work in the US. Maybe that can be something. But there was still this kind of pull, this call to like, no, I still want to live.
Do you feel like coffee is helping people at this time, or like that connection's not really there?
At the time, yes. At the time, it's like we're serving coffee. It also became this, I think, so again, this idea of like religious background comes into play.
Okay.
I think for so much of my upbringing, there is this like, this idea of God wants me to help people. So I think like my personality and this religious bent kind of intermixed together to make this be this drive to like, I need to do the most I can to help people. And I think coffee was part of the like, almost like unraveling of that in a sense of like, it's not my responsibility to like help the most people necessarily, but also like coffee became this thing that's like, I have fun doing this. I love being a part of this community. And that inherently, that's its value. Like that's the value for me too. It's not about like, I can help the most people through this means. You hear a lot of people in the Christian community will say like, oh, coffee is a good vehicle to teach things through.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think that's at the beginning, that's what a lot of people understood mine and Trent's work to be like, you can reach people.
Right.
Through
like
coffee.
through coffee, you can tell the story of Christianity or whatever.
Exactly.
Yes.
Like that's kind of the beginning. And then I think Trent had a mentor at the time. So there's a Bible verse that says, make a joyful noise unto the Lord. And a lot of people use that to mean like music and like sing, things like that.
Right.
And so this mentor had said to Trent, like, well, what if your joyful noise is making coffee? And what if you're doing it for the sheer joy of making coffee and that there's not like an end goal attached to it? And I think that gave me and Trent, but when he's on the podcast, you can have him tell his own side of the story. But I think that's what gave it, like started giving us this freedom to like, oh, actually, it's not about this like end goal of telling people something or getting people convinced to believe something. And I think that was part of, and not the start of, but I think part of this kind of even shifting and changing and questioning of our faith in a way that I'm really proud that coffee was a part of that for us.
Have you heard of effective altruism?
No.
So
tell me.
It's not religious. It doesn't believe in God or anything, but it's like helping the most people with like your resources.
Oh, I love that.
And so it's on a different kind of slant of what you're saying. And it makes me think there's a lot of positive come out of that, but there's also this like savior complex. There's a lot of like complexity or, virtual signaling. Like with it. Yeah. And it's like a weird balance of like, what is helping people. And like inherently I just love that. Or it's like, you're using it for other means, which can distort. Anyways, I'm kind of going sidetracked. So
no, it's good. I love learning stuff like this.
How we got religion.
Where do you go from this?
Yeah.
We got religion, politics.
Yeah, we got religion.
All the stuff you're not supposed to talk about at the dinner table.
We can just start talking money and then we've hit everything. Okay, where do you make your decision? Where do you go next?
Yeah.
Because you got like overhanging, you got Trump in the States. It sounds like you're not going there.
Yep. Oh.
And you're transforming through like, do you leave like Christianity? What happens there, or you stay in it? Like,
great question.
Keep going. Keep going. You gotta keep going.
At the same time, so while we're in the Philippines, we have a friend who's in Doha, Qatar.
Okay.
Who wants to start a coffee shop in Qatar.
Okay.
He calls us in. He sends us an email. If you're ever in the area,
right,
stop by.
Yeah.
So I kid you not, then the next time we looked to book flights to visit my family, so we were going to New York. That's the closest airport to my family. We're going to New York. Literally the layover is in Dubai.
Oh.
And we were like, okay, I guess we're going to be in the area. So we go to Dubai, we go to Doha, we meet with our friend. He shows us around Doha. It's like, I mean, I'd never been to that part of the world before. And it was just like eye-opening in like how almost futuristic it felt.
Okay,
and then the dichotomy of like going from Dubai and Doha and then going to New York. I was like, did I just go back in time 50 years? Like, it's insane.
What's Doha like?
Doha's like, I mean, the oil, like gas for your car was cheaper than a bottle of water at a restaurant.
Right.
It was, I mean, it's desert, but then there's also like, there's just such a built up, I'm thinking there was like a walk by the sea with these fancy buildings and the houses were gorgeous. And I had never seen so many expensive cars in my life. And like, going into the women's washroom and the women are just like, I mean, they're gorgeous. They're made up. They've got designer everything underneath. Like abaya covering, everything like that. And like as an American, having grown up, when I did, genuinely having this fear against Middle Eastern cultures.
Oh, wow.
We went to a mosque, like one of the biggest mosques in Doha, and there's a separate entrance for men and women. So Trent with our host went to the men's entrance and I by myself went to the women's entrance, and I felt like I just felt so nervous. I felt so scared. And I walked in and also knowing like, I mean, I brought a scarf to cover my head, but I didn't know like what else was needed. And I walk in and immediately these women greeted me like, welcome, thank you for being here. You know, we want you to be like, to be respectful, to be fully covered. We're going to give you like a complete covering. Like it's yours to take for free. They were just so welcoming. And I, you know, walked through the mosque as much as, so there was parts of the mosque that I wasn't able to go in as a woman. But then when I went to meet Trent and our friend, I was just like, that was the most incredible experience. Like I just felt so welcomed and, you know, please appreciate our culture, appreciate our religion. And I just thought that that was so beautiful.
Wow, that's really
so
neat.
I think that was the overall feeling in Doha. Like there was such a hospitality, such kindness, such love, and such wealth at the same time you know, again, growing up in America, it's like, we're the wealthiest country in the world. Like that's kind of what we're taught in school. And then to step outside of that and realize, no.
Yeah. There's different types of wealth.
There's different types of wealth, right? So then being in Doha, or then considering, you know, should we move to Doha? Should we help start this coffee shop up in Doha? That was a consideration as well. And at the time, Trent and I remember the moment. I'm doing dishes. He's working on his computer. We have the news on, and we're listening to Trump speak. And he's saying things against Middle Eastern people and making these like stereotypes, generalizations about the culture. And we're listening to things he's saying. We're like, this is not our experience at all in Doha and Dubai. And granted, like that's a very small area, but we're like, it's so different. What he's saying is so different from our experience. And so then at that point we felt like, what if we move somewhere in the Middle East to be able to tell that story of what people are like, of what communities are like, and that it's different than what Americans are hearing from the media. Can we do that? Can we be a part of that storytelling? And can we do it with coffee?
Did you help open did he open the cafe?
He did not open the cafe. What happened was...
You guys talked...
There's so many stories.
You talked him out of it? You said, there's no money to get out.
No. That would have been smart. No. So in order to open, again, as a foreigner, to open a business in Doha, you need a Qatari sponsor. And they need to own either 40 or 60%. I can't remember. They might be majority owners. So we had found a sponsor and we had met with him. And he was on board, loved it, just thought coffee was fun. Like it was a hobby for him. Like, let's just do this. But then there was the political issue. I'm trying to remember the full details and what year it was. But it was like the embargo against Qatar.
I don't know the details,
anyway,
but
there was like an embargo against Qatar. There was this whole big deal with, anyway, we won't go into too much depth about that, but our sponsor pulled out. He was like the world volatility at this point. Yeah. So he pulled out.
So then where do you go to next?
So we ended up going to Antalya, Turkey.
Okay.
And the reason was because
you guys are world travelers. Like it's pretty amazing. You've gone so many different places. Okay, you're in Turkey.
So we're in Turkey because I wanted to live, because of like this kind of faith shift of like, not where can we go to help the most people, but also where can we go that we can be of help, but also do something that delights us. We started looking at like, where would we thrive the most? And so I wanted to live by the sea, which is funny that I'm in Calgary now, but I wanted to live by the sea. Yeah. And Trent, growing up in Calgary, wanted to live by the mountains.
Okay.
And so we saw pictures of Antalya, Turkey, and it's the Mediterranean Sea by the mountains. And it just kind of melded this, we both want this.
Okay, and you just like Googled it?
So we Googled it, and then we had friends who lived, like we've had friends, colleagues with the nonprofit organization who had lived there. And so they were like, yes, this is a great option. Then we volunteered at WBC in Korea. Okay. So what would have that been? 2017? Okay, so we were volunteering. Trent was lugging heavy equipment, so he wasn't yet a judge. So he was lugging like the heavy equipment backstage, and I was a timekeeper.
The timekeeper is almost the most important volunteer role there is.
I felt so much pressure.
There's a lot of pressure.
I hope I did it well.
I think, yeah.
I mean, what happened. It was years ago. But anyway, so I meet the Turkish competitor. His name's Nisan. And I meet Nisan, and he comes up to me. He's like, oh, or I would introduce myself as a timekeeper. I'm Christine. I'm your timekeeper. How, at what minutes do you want me to call it for you? So he told me, and then he asked where I was from. And I was like, well, the States, but we're about to move to Turkey.
Oh, wow.
And so he was like, where in Turkey? I was like, Antalya. And he's like, that's where I grew up.
Oh, no
that's
way.
my hometown. And so then we talked later, and I gave him our elevator pitch, and he was like, well, like specialty coffee isn't really big in Antalya yet, but I think this could work. Like,
And how big's the city?
I don't know.
Like 50,000 or like a million?
Can we Google it? Can we flash it? Can we flash it across the screen?
Okay, it's a mid-sized city.
It's a mid-sized city. It's not as big as Istanbul. Ankara, Antalya, probably, or Izmir. So it's in the top 5 cities.
Okay.
In Turkey.
Okay, so now you're living there.
Now we're living in Turkey.
You were just at WBC in Korea.
That's right.
And what's the next step? Are you guys kind of like brainstorming all the time
We
of like,
are.
hey, we could do this, or this is an option? And is it always like cafes you're thinking about?
No. So at this point, this is where it changes. So actually, between Philippines and Turkey, we were a year in Connecticut.
Okay.
We stayed with my parents, planning, figuring it out. And my husband is writing business proposals, business pitches. We worked for a nonprofit organization who had seen what we had done in the Philippines and who was like, hey, if you pitch this business to us, we will consider funding it.
Oh.
And so we had this venture capital company, like a for-profit. They had kind of broken off from the nonprofit to be a for-profit investment company. And so they just said, like, create this business pitch and pitch it to us, and we'll see if, we're interested in investing. So I would say that year in Connecticut was him getting his WBC, like his judge certification to judge at Worlds, and then doing that business pitch and honing it. And at that point, the business pitch was for cafe, roastery, education facility. But like a tiered process, because it was like, you can't open 3 of those at one time. Now I'm getting into a lot of what's going to be details for him. So again, have him on the podcast to give you all the details. Cause I'm thinking like, even like during that time for me, what that was too, was we were trying to start a family. It had taken us a lot longer than expected. I had a miscarriage while we were staying with my parents. So it was a lot of like grieving that, helping Trent, get through what's next, do the business pitch, the business proposal stuff.
We're covering another topic here that you're not supposed to cover, but that's okay. Was coffee able to kind of help? You said you had a miscarriage, and we don't really have to go into that.
That's
if you don't want to, but
I'm fine to talk about it too.
How did you deal with that? Was like coffee able to bridge that, or am I reaching way too much?
I love that you asked it. I think that's a great question. I think something that did help, and as soon as you asked the question, I pictured the ritual of drinking coffee every morning and how grounding that is. And I pictured like sitting on my parents' living room floor we had a little black pug at the time, and he's like cuddled next to me, and I'm drinking my coffee. And I think as a coffee consumer, that's where there's like a comfort in that ritual. Yeah,
there is something when we're in the industry, we just take it for granted, like having amazing coffee or just drinking coffee. But when you're like a consumer, it's ritualistic for us as baristas, but I think as a consumer. Okay, let's go on to a lighter topic.
Let's do it.
Okay, so you're thinking of this 3-phase approach, and which one do you open first?
We eventually opened, it changed, like the plan changed back and forth, but we did the roastery first.
Okay.
So we did the roastery first, which we opened a few months after COVID started.
Okay.
Such a blast.
Yeah. That's great timing.
Let's open new businesses during COVID. We love that. But what that ended up, the benefit to that was at the time, Antalya didn't have any any other roastery in the city. So even the cafes were getting coffee from Istanbul, from Ankara, from Izmir. And cafes shut down. So
there was full shutdown.
Full shutdown of cafes. So I remember getting the notification on my phone of, as of midnight tonight, cafes and restaurants will be closed. And I remember I think I just like looked over at Trent on the couch and I was like, we need coffee. We need beans, because you weren't going to be able to go to a cafe to buy. You would have to order online. And so I remember just like
racing to the roastery.
Not because ours wasn't open yet, but racing to the nearest cafe to just buy as many beans as I could. And I remember like rationing them for the first couple months, just like, okay, I guess I'm drinking a 12-gram cup every day just to ration my beans so that I know I have coffee.
And it was like, you guys were shut down for a while there?
We were shut down for a while. I mean, I would say like the most dramatic one was, there was 3 weeks where the government just decided to like, you had to have a pass to leave your house.
Oh, geez.
That you got through your company. Like your job, if you were deemed essential, then your job would give you a pass. And I went to the States. Trent was like, we had a almost 2-year-old at the time. So he's like, take our daughter, go to the States. You're not going to be able to leave the house for 3 weeks. Yeah. So I would say like, it was hard for everybody, but it was different in some ways than the experience of friends in Canada or the US. But when we had our roastery, which opened, so lockdown was in March, and then the roastery like kind of soft launched in June. And so what we would get to do is a friend and I would get to go and like, we just like go work on our computers at the roastery and like feel like we were in a cafe because like this was the closest we could get. Or at that point, then we always had roasted coffee in our house.
Right. And
it's just like,
so
yes.
how big did the roastery get? Because we gotta fast forward. You've written this amazing book. We gotta like connect the dots.
We gotta connect the dots.
How long were you guys in Turkey?
Yep.
How long did you have the roastery?
So we were in Turkey for 5 years. We had the roastery for 3. And we had sold it to another company. So Homestead Coffee, they have a location in Istanbul and then now in Antalya. So they absorbed our operations and they're running and doing great.
Sweet.
So that's super fun.
Geez, you guys have exited two businesses. That's like most entrepreneurs,
dream, right?
they don't exit at all. It just ends.
Exactly. We have exited.
That's really good.
So the way that worked is, so it started off as a roastery and then people would be coming in the neighborhood like, can we try it? So then we're like, we have to open some kind of a cafe so that people can at least try it. And then just to bring politics into it again, once the war in Ukraine started, a lot of Ukrainians and Russians came to Antalya. And so our coffee shop, In Common Coffee Roasters, became this kind of co-working space because we were in a Russian community.
Oh, wow.
So it became this co-working space in a sense, unofficially, for the Russian community.
Oh, cool.
And so we felt, kind of tied into what was going on.
Okay, so when do you sell the business?
Yeah.
You've been there 5 years.
Yep.
When do you guys decide like, okay, are we going to Google like next best place to live? How are you guys making a decision of like where to go? Yeah.
So what happened was we were here visiting family one Christmas. And I remember because we were driving out to Kananaskis to go to the Nordic Spa, which is still an annual love for us in the wintertime. And I remember driving out, it was snowing and Trent was just like, I feel ready to move back. And it was interesting because when we got married, he was like, I don't ever want to live in Alberta again. And I was like, I can't live that far from the ocean. I just can't. So when he said it,
we got the Bow River. Come on.
It's not big enough.
You can float down it.
I'm fine.
You can float down it.
I haven't done that yet. But
you haven't done that?
I haven't done that.
Jeez, right. You got to do that. This summer, you got to do it.
Okay, bucket list item for the summer.
Bucket list Calgary
Fish
item.
Creek Park, though, is pretty great. I've been loving that.
Anyway, we don't need to do the sales pitch on that.
Come to Calgary.
Yeah.
But at that point, I felt like, okay, not like, I hear what you're saying. Maybe in 5 years, like, let's take a slow exit out of Antalya because I was loving it. I mean, we both loved it. But what happened was, so in that 3-week trip to the States that I'd mentioned, our daughter, who was just a little shy of 2, had a seizure, had a grand mal seizure, which ended us doing lots of testing and no conclusive answers. So we had come back to Turkey for her to have another seizure. And while we were in Turkey, she was diagnosed with epilepsy.
Oh, wow.
Which is essentially, she's had 2 seizures and we don't know why. So we're going to put her on medicine and see if that helps. And so it was after another seizure, an overnight in the emergency room, that I was pregnant with our second child. So Trent spent the night like on the linoleum floor in the ER with her. And I went and met them in the morning and I was like, okay, I'm ready to go. The medical care is great. Like we had good medical professionals, but doing it in another language, in another culture was really hard. And knowing that we wanted, the best for our kids, as we all do. So wanting to do that in a country that was in a culture that was familiar to us.
And so Calgary became
it. Trent's brother, lives 10 minutes from us now, and our kids are around the same age. So it was this let's give our kids cousins to play with every week. Let's get good medical care, stuff in English.
It's so tough when you're alone.
Yeah.
There is a community you can build up, but there's something about family and it feels you feel isolation when it's just you.
Yep.
So yeah, that can be, and especially with kids, I can only imagine.
It up the ante.
Yeah.
Once kids came into the picture, you know, I'll travel the world by myself, no problem. But you add kids to it and it's a whole new
you can't travel anywhere.
Oh man, I want to, but it's hard.
So you come back to Calgary.
Yeah.
When does the book kind of start to become an idea?
Yeah.
What was that process like?
So the book started in Turkey.
Okay.
The book started during the pandemic as a note in my phone. Oh, it was on the visit to Calgary where Trent pitched the idea to me that we should move back to Canada, that a friend of ours.
I like how he's pitching you, it's like a business plan.
This is how our marriage works.
Yeah. I got another pitch, honey. It's like, oh no.
Oh, here we go. That's kind of how it works. During the pandemic, he made business plans for fun.
Oh my goodness. Okay. He's got to come on quickly and I gotta hear.
You gotta ask all the questions.
Okay. So you start writing some notes on.
So I start writing some notes. I have a friend who was like, this could be really fun if you do ABCs. And I was like, that's a great idea. So I literally just wrote the alphabet in a note in my phone. And then as life would go, I'd be like, oh, F, filter.
Yeah.
And I would just write it in my phone. And so then once I had all of them, then I'm like, okay, now I want little descriptions for each of them. And at the same time, my kid's little. So I'm reading hundreds of children's books.
Right.
Over and over and over again.
Right.
And I'm finding myself editing them.
Oh, really?
As I'm reading them.
Oh,
so
wow.
I'm a writer. I love grammar. Trent says I have librarian energy. I will correct I'll correct our 5-year-old's grammar. I'll be like, actually.
I'm sorry about our newsletter then. It's probably,
I don't read it too closely.
Okay, good. Because there's
So
probably some misspelling or the grammar stuff.
If you ever need an editor though.
Yeah.
I'm up for hire. So, so I'm just having fun with it. Whatever, and my kid can't read yet. So I'm able to change the words around. And I'm like, I think I can do this. I think I can write a children's book that parents will enjoy reading. Cause that's huge, right?
That's almost
books.
half of it.
So exactly. So I also, and again, I think this comes into context because it's the pandemic. I want an illustrator that I can meet with in person. I'm tired of Zoom meetings. I'm tired of doing things on the computer. So a friend of mine in Antalya, Turkey, she's American. And we had just been hanging out. She had a kid through adoption. And so it was in the realm of that whole life. And I was like, do you want to illustrate this book for me, with me, and do it very collaboratively? And she's like, yeah, I'm game. So what was so fun about it is I literally just explained my vision. I want it to be minimalistic. I want it to be simple. I want it to be cute, but not overstimulating as some books can be. And she was like, game. And so she pitched this style to me immediately. And I was like, yep, that's it. Wow. Let's go.
Okay, so you got the idea. You got someone
Yep.
who's going to help draw, bring it to life. What's the business side like? Like, how do you give us the behind the scenes of
gosh.
like, how does a book physically transform from idea to
book.
To book.
Well, that's what I found. Like, that's the hardest part of writing a book.
is not writing, is
not
trying to get
writing
the
it.
book deal?
Exactly. Because the question of, do you want a traditional publisher, which with children's books requires an agent.
Okay.
So now you have to try to pitch to agents. And then as an American with a Canadian PR, am I doing it through a Canadian agency, through an American? What's beneficial? What's cost effective? Or am I going to self-publish? And I have a friend who's in the publishing industry who I was able to process a lot of it through with. And realizing that a lot of what a publisher does is the marketing aspect.
Okay.
And realizing between Trent and myself, we have connections in the coffee industry. And then I thought, man, I think the marketing piece would be fun. Okay, let's just self-publish. And then I'm not like sending this PDF to agents, to publishers, trying to pitch myself. What if I just get this book into the world?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And see what kind of life it can take on.
Is part of the problem like agents, they're taking like, you got to pitch them to take you on board and then they're taking a cut.
Oh yeah. And then the publisher's taking a cut. And then, and I mean, my hunch was that this would be a big hit more in the more toward coffee shops than to bookstores. And the thought was like, is this going to fit an agent's model or publisher's model?
Right. Because they're not targeting the local cafe.
Exactly.
They're going to go to a bookstore, Indigo or whoever.
Exactly. Whereas I thought this is going to be fun. So I think that's kind of been my theme of like, what can I do with this book that's going to make it fun for me? So self-publishing is going to make it fun. But then once I decide self-publishing is the way to go. So now I need to find a printer. I need to figure out how to do formatting.
Okay.
So then it's like a whole new realm of questions. So Amber, the illustrator, had done formatting for books in the past. And so she was able to create the format for it. Like I gave her the measurements and everything. So she was able to create a PDF that I could send to a printer.
Okay. And how do you pick like a book size? Like, is there an art
of like, should this have been bigger? Like, is that what you mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Like I'm looking, it's like, a very nice handheld size,
Yes.
like, not everyone's watching. So it's like, I don't know how big it is.
10 by 10.
10 by 10. So it's like, to me, like I read lots of books and I think if it's a mix for different people, it's like how it looks and feels. Like I like a big, heavy, thick, like, I don't know, thick cover.
You like a hardcover?
Hardcover. Yes. That's the word I'm looking for. Like certain page type, there's like different feelings to them.
Yes.
But not every book comes like that. So like, how do you make those decisions
Oh my gosh.
on your book?
This is excellent questions you're asking.
Well, I'm so impressed. Like creating a book, I think would be incredibly hard. So I'm very impressed. And
Thank
then
you.
like all the details that go in that you just, we see books all the time and you think nothing of it. So
Right.
give us,
So I knew I wanted it to be a board book because I want it to be a coffee table book for grownups too. Like
Okay.
I want you to have this out in your house.
Okay. Yeah.
I want someone to be able to be like, I'm going to buy this for my friend who doesn't even have kids just because they like coffee.
Right. Okay.
And so I thought this is going to give it like substance and just some kind of nice
Like
thing
weight,
to hold in your
feeling.
hand. Yeah, exactly. And then wanting it to be, like you said, like something nice to hold in your hand. So with the 10 by 10 size, that's what does that. So I had hundreds of children's books in my house. So I could kind of go through those and see like, what do I enjoy holding the most? And I'm going to have to pay for 1,000 of these out of pocket. Right. So let's not make it too big so that I can afford it.
Yes. I guess,
So that's part of
every
it too,
inch
right?
you add is like
add some
added cost
to it.
Okay. So you've got the formatting.
Yep.
Now, how do you pick, like, is different colors costing different amounts? Who do you even go to like print it?
So Googling a lot.
Okay.
At first. So my husband's aunt and uncle own a print shop in Calgary.
Oh, no way.
So I messaged them first and they're like, we don't do board books. Okay. So that's what I ran into a lot, that there are a lot more companies out there who are doing hardcover or soft cover, but no one's doing board books. So I think I found one company in Canada doing it, but it was like $8 a book.
Okay.
So,
And for like someone listening, is $8 a book. How much is this retailing for?
19.
Okay. So that's a lot.
It's a lot for that just to be, the main
And
cost.
is there a formula? Like there must be a book formula.
There's
like
gotta be.
if there's gotta be.
I'm sure there is.
Okay. So like $20 is my retail. Like the cost has got to be under $2.
$2, right? So it's more than $2. But I did find a printer in China that does it. And it was interesting. I actually just kind of like messaged them back and forth for a long time, asking quotes, asking questions, getting what the process was like from them and learning a lot from them. Right before they invoiced me for the first printing, I was like, how do I know this is real? Like, how do I know this isn't just a scam?
Who's on the, you're always
on the other line?
Yeah, who's on the other side?
And I emailed them and I was like, I'm feeling uncomfortable about, and I just was like straight up with them. And they were like, we're real. Like, what else do we need to send you? You've built this relationship with us. And I knew that about Asian cultures too, right? Like it's such about the relationship.
Yes.
And we'd been emailing back for like 7 months. And I could tell that like me trying to pull out, they were like, but you've built this relationship with us. And I was like, I'm going to trust the relationship. So, wired them thousands of dollars, which felt so vulnerable. But then when I got, oh my gosh, boxes. I mean, the minimum order was 1,000. So when I got it on my doorstep, it was just like, this was real.
Is it like relief or
so much
relief. Like you cutting open the boxes? Is there like a tiny shred of like dread? Like we've printed lots of stuff in our lifetime here.
Yeah.
And it's like, we've had a few things show up and it's like, oh, this is the wrong color. And we have 30,000 of these.
Yes. It's like opening the box is terrifying. Because you're like, is this going to be? Because they sent me one sample copy and I gave them some feedback. And so they had sent me a video of the new print, but it was like, is this going to
hit the mark?
What I want it to be? Yeah, exactly. So I was so nervous. So there's like an excitement. What I've created, I can now hold in my hand. And that's a really big deal. But then it's as I pull out each book, are they going to be consistent? And now I have to sell 1,000 of these.
What's that?
I need to make my money back.
What's that? You got to make the money back. What's that journey like? Like how is selling coffee, this the hard but easy in a way.
Yeah.
How is selling, books and then a coffee book for children? How is that?
I had one bookstore in Calgary tell me, coffee and kids do not go well together. And I was just like, you are not my target audience. I will not be in your bookstore.
Yeah. What was your first thought? Like who are you going to go at? Are you going after bookstores? Are you going after cafes? Are you going after the end user? How do you decide?
Yeah, my first thought was to go after end user, was to use social media and kind of like make reels and talk about it on my account and things like that. So I would say the first blast of purchases were like friends, family, right? They want to support you and they're there. I mean, I have awesome friends and family who have supported me in this process. And then cafes. I think I did like cafes and bookstores around the same time. And then I quickly realized that cafes were way more interested. And then I think above anyone else has been 8 ounce here in Calgary.
Oh, sweet.
Has been just like so supportive. I think they were like, even like I took them the sample copy, but then they were like, how many can we buy? Like we're here. And then they supply smaller cafes. So then you have that kind of distribution model going. So I think it's done best through 8 ounce and then also at cafes that have a target audience for kids. So like, for example, Eclipse Coffee, who is hosting the AeroPress competition.
Oh yes, we got it.
This weekend.
Yes.
We'll go there. They have a kids play area.
Oh, cool.
So they were another one that I was immediately like,
oh, I got to go there.
We have to be there. So they've sold a ton too.
Oh, wow.
So they've come back and reordered a few times.
Oh, cool.
Which has been super fun. But it's been, taking it to cafes, showing people so I sold 1,000 copies in the first 7 months.
Wow.
Had to reorder.
Well, that's good news.
Which was awesome. So I ordered 2,000 the next time, which they're in my basement. Yeah. And again, it's the same vulnerable feeling of like, okay, I just invested all of this money. Can I sell them? And there's like an excitement for me, but also, yeah, like I said, like a fear and a vulnerability and can I do that? But this time I Googled coffee shops throughout Canada and the US that have a retail shelf and like have reviews that mention it's family friendly. Like I brought my kid in. So like those are the reviews I was looking for on Google.
Yeah.
And then I picked like 20 in each country and I sent them sample copies.
Oh, wow.
So I'm like working on following up with those now.
How long has the book been out for?
Not even a year. So it came out July last year.
Oh, wow. Okay. So what's next on this journey? Like you're an author.
I'm an author.
You're a
I did
published
it.
author. Are you going to do another book? Like
I do want to do another book. Okay. So for this year, I want to focus on selling more of these. I want more people to have it. And then, thinking about doing another kids book.
If you could go back to yourself when you first thought of the idea for the book and you said like, I've sold 2,000 copies, would that be a number that you would get like really excited for and like be like proud of?
Totally. I would be like, what? I did what?
Yeah,
that's amazing.
I got this new thing where I'm like I'm getting old. So I'm like always reflecting and like talking to my younger self and saying like, you're going to be doing this in a year or 5 years or whatever. And, I love asking that question because it kind of reminds us like we've come so far.
Yes.
And in 7 months or 8, it's like you sold a lot of books. That's okay. So what's the next book going to be about? Or an author, you can't reveal that, I guess.
No, whatever. We've talked about religion and politics and
we got
family planning and like what else is there to hide? I have a distributor in the States as well. So from China, I pay to have most of them shipped here and then a smaller majority or a smaller chunk shipped to my friend's garage in the US. Okay. And so my friend Tim is like, he just like voice messaged me one day. He's like, I have your next book idea. And then he shared it with me. And I was like, yeah, that's exactly what we're doing. Oh, sweet. So we have My Barista ABCs. And so the next we need to do My Barista 1-2-3s.
Ah, of course.
So it just makes sense. So while that is not yet a note on my phone, it's brewing. Think about it. It's brewing.
It's brewing. How many more do you need to sell to get onto the next book?
I think it's more of a matter of, I think I want to work on it next year.
I see.
Like, I think it's, let's hustle on this one this year.
Is it hard to like knock on doors and like tell them about your book and like tell them about yourself and then why they should?
Yes and no. Yes, because it's vulnerable, right? It's like I walk in, I'm like, hi, I wrote this book. And it just feels like sometimes it feels really cheesy. Or like I was at a coffee roaster on Vancouver Island a couple of weeks ago and I wanted to pitch them my book. And I'm in line. I'm going to order a coffee as well. And I'm in line, but there's tons of people behind me. Oh, no. So when I got up to the barista, I was like, hi, I'm Christina. I'd like a nice latte, but also I wrote this book and I know there's a long line, so I'm going to talk really fast. And I just like handed it to them. But they were so great. Like the barista just like gathered other people around and they were like, this would be great here. So the reception has been good.
Nice.
And I think that helps me keep doing it. But when I do it in person like that, it definitely is a vulnerable sales pitch. At the same time, it's something that's just so much fun. Like it's not like a memoir or this like really heavy, heartfelt book. It's like a kid's book about coffee. So I do feel like it's kind of a fun pitch at the same time.
It's an easier kind of lead in. Okay, competition.
Yeah. Go for it.
Talk to me. You're doing what's the theory? You want to do AeroPress? Do you brew AeroPress? First we got to set the stage.
Oh yeah.
So Saturday.
Yes.
This Saturday. Which when this releases,
it'll have happened already.
We'll find out the results. But you are competing in the regional AeroPress.
Yep.
Tell us like what that means.
Yeah.
And then why did you sign up? Which is, I think it's so great. I think it's so great you signed up. But
so Trent actually competed in AeroPress when we were living in the Philippines. Okay. So it's been almost a decade.
Oh wow, it's full circle.
It's full circle. I have never had aspirations of competing before. But when I saw the email come out, the blast about, open for contestants, I was like, let's just do it.
Sweet.
It's kind of in this realm of like, for the book, it's like, what can I do that I'm going to have fun? And that this felt like I could have fun with this. And AeroPress was one of my first brewing devices in specialty coffee. So it feels really nostalgic. And I think yesterday Trent and I went to town in our kitchen and we're brewing, we're adding different minerals, we're trying different things. And he does this for a living.
Yes,
so he's sitting there with his judge face, sipping my coffee.
I think you have your coach is one of the best in the world. So I think you're going to do okay.
I hope so. It was like, because I've been practicing on my own, like without him for a few weeks. And so I was like, this is where I've got it. I'm not super pleased with it. And by the end of yesterday, it was like, oh, this is a coffee I can be really proud of.
Sweet.
So that felt really good. But I also wanted it to be like a recipe and a ratio that's really approachable, because you can go so crazy with the AeroPress.
Yes.
You can do so many fun and crazy, and that's why there's a whole competition about it.
Yes.
But I wanted it to be something that I could share with someone who is a newbie to AeroPress too. So I want it to be simple.
Okay. What's the golden recipe here?
So, okay, we'll start with this. Generally, when I'm brewing, like if I'm brewing with my other favorite devices, the Hario switch. And so when I'm brewing with the Hario, the golden ratio is my jam, like 16.66666.
1 to 16. So
right.
how much coffee are you going to use?
Okay. I've been practicing using 20 grams.
Sweet.
And then Trent reads the rules a little closer, and you can't use more than 18.
What?
You have to use no more than 18 grams.
Oh, interesting. Well, there was a time that people were putting in like 40 grams.
Oh.
And there was like, it was like the massive dose, and then they were bypassing and blah, blah, blah. So, okay. So 18 grams then?
So we're using 18 grams. So we had to quick do the math of okay, so I'd been doing 20 grams to 200 ml water and then bypassing with 120.
Okay, yeah.
So then we just quick did some algebra that was giving me high school flashbacks.
Yeah,
but that's the beauty of coffee is that you get to integrate math and science. And if only I had learned this way in high school, I would have been way more interested.
Okay, so you got 18 grams.
So 18 grams to 200 and then bypassing with 88.
Okay.
And so...
And how long's the brew?
The brew is 130 with a 30-second plunge.
Okay, sweet.
And then my goal is we're going to brew with, this is the most vulnerable part that I've shared. My AeroPress recipe. Oh my gosh. A room temperature bypass water. That's mineralized. So I'm going to be brewing with distilled.
Oh, interesting.
With mineralized room temp bypass water.
So the second they go to cup it, it's going to be at a more approachable temperature.
Exactly.
And
because that's what I found as I was brewing. I'd be sipping it. Oh, okay, this is okay. And then maybe 5-10 minutes after, I'm like, oh, this tastes way better. But you can't control when the judges are tasting it. You can't say wait for 20 minutes to let this cool down.
Yeah, the good and bad thing about AeroPress is it's so relaxed.
Yes.
That the judges can be drinking beer or whatever, that there's not a rule of when they have to drink it, how long they can drink it for. So sometimes the judging can go on for 30 seconds or it can be 5 minutes.
Right.
And so you just don't know.
You don't have control over it at that point.
Which can be it's way more fun. It's way more approachable.
And that's why I wanted to join for this one rather, and wanting to do this rather than I think if I were to compete in another competition, it would be brewers.
Okay.
Just because that's more my jam than, I'm not behind an espresso machine a lot. And so why?
I think the AeroPress, it's the perfect place to start.
Perfect place to start.
And then it's oh, I actually really enjoy this. I love the process of getting to the competition and practice and working on variables. And then the next step is brewers, because it's only 10 minutes. And then it's most of us just brew coffee every day.
Every day.
So you can just apply that.
Exactly.
And the worst comes I don't know, just say your flavor notes up there. And if you forget anything, just write it down and you can just say it
yes.
Just go.
Have you competed?
I've never competed. It's Cole was, he started competing in 2010, so he would have been 18.
Oh, wow.
Or 17.
I didn't realize he was so young.
And yeah, he looks older than me.
When he competed, that's what I mean. Yeah.
Well, he looks old now.
Old man, Cole. You're an old man.
But he could just present.
Yeah.
And so my role like immediately was, and I get nervous presenting.
Yeah.
And especially, I would have been, I don't know, 26 at the time or whatever
Okay.
age. It was like, okay, these are our two distinct roles.
Yeah.
And then, every once in a while I joke like, oh, I'd love to do it. But now I'm so far removed. Like, again, I was a barista for a very long time. I still call myself a barista, but it's like not, anyways, no, I haven't.
Yeah.
The short answer. So
that makes sense.
Okay. We've gone on a big journey.
Huge journey.
You got the book out. You got the new book kind of simmering.
Percolating.
What else is next for you?
That's a great question. I would say, I ask myself this question a lot.
I ask myself every morning, what's next for me?
What's next for me? What is next for me? I would say family-wise, we're on the cusp of, our daughter will be entering grade 1.
Oh, wow.
And we're going to be homeschooling, which is a whole other journey and story all on its own.
Why, okay, we got to go 5 minutes on this. Why homeschooling?
Why homeschooling? So
you can say the public school system's no good.
it's more for our kid. Like, it's more like how she learns and how she processes the world is not like, it's not, I don't think I don't think the public school system is for her. I went to public school, K through 12, and I loved it. It was a great experience for me.
Wow, you don't hear that often.
I know. Exactly. I had amazing teachers. Granted, the older I get, and I think this is true for a lot of people, like the older you get, you're like, oh, why didn't I learn that in school? Or why did they teach it to me that way? Realizing now, I think especially with social media, how much information is at our fingertips, or not just social media, but the internet. Like, oh, I didn't learn, Christopher Columbus was a hero, but there's actually debate about that, the actual nitty gritty of it. But overall, my experience was really good. And I feel like, I like spending time with my kid. So let's do that.
Helps.
It helps. But I think, just the way that she learns will be helpful to do in a more slower paced environment that is more one-on-one and intentional.
I think it's interesting. This has nothing to do with coffee, but it's like that method. It just seems like, I remember growing up, it's like if anyone was homeschooled, you're like, oh, you're the weird kid.
Oh, absolutely.
Like Ben Putt. No, I'm just joking.
We love you, Ben.
No, you just think he's the only person I know who was homeschooled. But
Trent
it's like,
was homeschooled.
Oh, yes. Okay. Well,
So
now it all makes sense.
Everything makes sense.
It all
right?
makes sense. But it's like you're saying, there's like, we have so much more information that we can have, like our children. I don't have children, so I don't
are in the bigger sense of the word hour.
Yeah, that you can like apply and like meeting them where they are instead of like you go into the system and it's like you
learn it by this specific.
And you have to fit into the system and then the system doesn't work for you. Well, it's like, okay, get out.
Then you're labeled the problem rather than the system being.
And the system is like from whenever, it's been the same system for like 40 or 60 or 100 years. And so we got to reframe the system. Okay. So,
well, and I think also in this, I am going to tie this back to coffee too, because everything can be tied back to coffee for us. But I think the way that things can be, and I think it still happens, I think it happened more like generations ago. The idea of homeschooling was like, let's kind of isolate the kid from society, or let's like pull them out of something, from like conservative communities. And I think that was something that I didn't want to happen. I didn't want my kids to be isolated. And this is why, like, at first I was like, I'm never going to homeschool my kids. And then I started seeing this shift and seeing this kind of culturally happen as a cultural movement of, instead of seeing it as what we can take our kids from, looking at it as what can we give our kids? And so looking at as not like, I'm going to shield you or hide you from the world, but how can I give you the world by having more control over your education? So one of the reasons why we're excited about homeschooling is that, so for Trent, he is a rep now. So he's not just a judge. So now he's a WBC representative.
WCE.
Thank you. WCE.
Yeah, same thing.
The letters, man.
Yeah, too many letters.
Too many letters. But he's a rep, and so he gets invited by lots of different countries to come and rep coffee competitions, and they're paying his way. They're paying his hotel. That's how the system works. And so to be able to say like, okay, we're gonna go to France.
Yes.
And I'm going to be able to go and take the kids with me. And what are we going to do for the 4 days that, dad is at coffee competition, but now we get to go explore this new city.
I didn't even think of that aspect. And that's like an amazing, especially to travel as a child, you don't always like understand it, but later in life, you reflect back on it. It was like, that week in Paris or, seeing a different culture than the way we normally do it back home it's just so eye-opening and so important.
Exactly. And as you know, like Trent and I have lived in the Philippines, we've lived in Turkey, we've traveled so much. And so that has really shaped our view of the world and how people do things differently wherever they are. And so wanting to give that to our kids as well.
I love that. I don't know why we went down that.
I don't know either.
We're gonna end on that. We're gonna end on the schooling.
Sweet.
Where can people find you online? What's your like socials? Where's the places to buy the book? This is like, give your sales pitch.
Sweet. So you can buy the book at christinerollings.com. And I'm on Instagram, christine.rollings. And actually, if you go straight to my Instagram on my bio, you'll see the website to order the book. And then also I have a Substack. So I also send out a newsletter.
I was going through it. It's very well written.
Thank you.
But
it's personal.
It's not super personal. It's really nice.
Informative. It's more like, here's what's going on in my life. And that was actually really intentional. It was a lot of like, you see so many newsletters and content creators out there trying to teach you something, trying to sell you something. And in my Instagram, I try to reflect this too. Like, it's very much like, this is me. This is what I'm doing. Like let's connect as human beings rather than me trying to sell you something.
I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
This is fun.
And I'm going to buy some books after, and then we're going to give them away.
Oh, I love it.
We got to figure that out. That's our marketing. Not that we're selling anything.
But we're giving stuff away. That's fun.
Giving free stuff away.
We love giving free stuff away.
Okay, appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.